Hey everybody, Matt here with Big Red Liquors, and today I've got the latest single barrel release that I'm really excited about. This is actually one of the most anticipated releases of 2018 when I was presented with this brand several months ago. So Sagamore Spirit, based in Maryland, the whole project I think underwritten or owned by the owner of Under Armour, which is actually doing a lot to revitalize the Baltimore downtown area. Anyway, we're talking about Maryland Rye, but this Sagamore Spirit, until they get the spirit that they're making now and that they started up and running, you know the story, they're actually buying from MGP, which is right here in the state of Indiana. We all know that MGP basically reinvented and reinvigorated the rye category with their 95% recipe rye, which was always meant to be a blending rye with other spirits, a la Crown Royal, but was purchased in bulk by a lot of different people, and it has this beautiful spice quality. It's one of the most sort of effortless on the palate ryes that's out there. But anyway, that's MGP. They do a fantastic job. So 4.5 years ago, they actually announced that they were going to start making other recipes. One of them was a wheated recipe bourbon. Spirit of America, if you remember, was that failed experiment that bought a bunch of barrels of their 2-year-old wheated bourbon that is absolutely phenomenal. One of the other recipes that they did, they added this to their rye, to their list of ryes that they do. So instead of 95% rye and 5% malted barley, it is 51% rye, so just barely rye, 45% corn, and 4% malted barley. So this is as close to an MGP kind of half and half as you can get. It's just barely legal rye, literally barely legal rye, 51%. It's 1% less, and it's not rye at that point. Okay, so Sagamore has some other MGP rye, and they basically say you got a high rye and a low rye. You can blend the two together. And I was like, forget it. We want the 100% low rye, because that's an MGP mash bill that nobody's ever released before. Nobody's seen that on the market. What does it taste like? How good is it all on its own? So I sort of just made the humble request, knowing that somebody had purchased a bunch of that recipe out there, because that's what MGP does. It sells it to other people. Anyway, long story short, Sagamore Rye for Big Red Liquors, and this is the 100% low rye. So that just means it's the 100% of the 51% rye, 45% corn. So much more in line with like the Wild Turkey or the Jim Beam traditional rye recipes. What you get on the nose is rock candy, kind of pickle juice rye. That's the 95% rye, has been replaced here by, oh man, very floral. You get apricots. There's like rose petals here. Lots of dried fruit, oranges, dried pineapple. Oh man. You get the baking spice that emerges a little bit. It's just a very aromatic, very light, very subtle spice and floral forward aroma. Delicious. Oh man. You just know if it's MGP, it's going to be good. But what's exciting about this is that nobody's ever had this bottle before, as far as I can tell, on the market. Let's try it. So that very light mouthfeel that just sort of coats the whole tongue, but doesn't burn the cheek in any way at all. And this is 95 proof. So this is relatively high proof. It doesn't taste anything more than like an 82 or 84 proof whiskey. So very light on the palate. You definitely get a lot more baking spice in there. Unlike what you don't get, the difference between the 95% rye and this 51% rye is that in the 95%, you definitely get like that pine aroma, like a forest floor. There's a spice, but there's sort of this aggressive kind of earthiness to it. This does not have that at all. The higher percentage of corn creates such an elegant balance to this rye. It's got that same beautiful, light, deft mouthfeel to it, but it finishes with more baking spice. It finishes, I think, maybe even with a little bit more body than the 95% rye. And it just has, if you don't like such a super spicy rye, this is the one for you. And I don't think anybody else has this in the market as of yet. I know it's going to be floating around out there, but that's the story of Sagamore Spirit. So good for these guys in Baltimore who are doing their thing, who are making it happen, but really good for them for identifying such a cool, unique recipe that MGP was doing and buying a big tranche of it and bringing it to market in the form of Sagamore Spirit. Great for you guys, great for MGP. What a fantastic job that they do. And it's just damn good whiskey. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Cheers.